A group of children finds themselves completely isolated on a deserted island after a plane crash. Attempts to establish order crumble, giving way to a brutal struggle for power and resources. Consumed by fear and instinct, the children rapidly regress, plunging into primal horror, which leads to tragic consequences. The series begins much like the cult classic Lost. A person lies unconscious in the middle of a tropical jungle. In this case, it's a chubby boy nicknamed Piggy. Groping for his glasses, he stands up and goes in search of other people. Wandering through the woods, Piggy finds a half-eaten tropical fruit infested with worms, as well as the engine of the crashed plane. The crash caused the death of a wild sow, leaving behind a tiny piglet. Climbing a tree, Piggy plucks some fruit for a snack. Later, another survivor emerges from the bushes, a boy named Ralph. They team up and head off together to find clean water, to bathe and wash away the dirt and sweat of a hard day. Piggy leads Ralph deeper into the island. On the way, it turns out he can't run fast because of his asthma. Walking upstream, the boys reach a pond of clear water on high ground. Ralph immediately dives in to swim while Piggy stays on the shore. He admits he can't swim, and his new friend promises to teach him. Piggy timidly enters the water, where the boys splash each other. Then Piggy finds a large shell and makes a makeshift horn out of it, breaking off one of the tips against a rock. He tells Ralph that his friend had a real hunting horn that he used to blow. When the boys reach the beach, Piggy asks his companion to blow the makeshift horn to attract the attention of the other survivors. Ralph blows. It takes him a few tries to produce a proper sound, which gathers the other survivors from the crash. Children of primary and middle school age. When enough of them have gathered, Piggy wants to give a speech, but the kids won't listen as they are all chattering at once. Ralph has to climb onto a makeshift pedestal, an old log, and blow the horn again to get their attention. Ralph gathered everyone to find out what they know and what to do next. At that moment, a group of 10 boys in robes appears on the shore. A children's church choir led by Jack. Hearing the trumpet blast, they thought rescuers had arrived by boat. In the choir is a young boy named Simon, who often faints. Once everyone is assembled, the question arises, what to do next? Ralph proposes electing a leader, and Jack puts forward his candidacy. In the vote, only his choir members raise their hands for Jack, while everyone else votes for Ralph. Dissatisfied with the result, Jack suggests annulling the vote and holding a second round. But he is refused. The singers, in turn, appoint themselves as both the army and the hunters, much to the delight of their lead soloist. First, following Piggy's advice, Ralph suggests climbing to the top of the mountain to look around. Jack and Simon go with him. The rest of the children stay on the beach to play and have fun. On the way, Piggy reminds them they need to build shelters, find a water source, and make a latrine. But Jack mockingly scoffs at his advice, rehearsing his future role as the nasty Draco Malfoy in a Harry Potter series. We're on a magic island, and Piggy's worried about a toilet for the little ones. On the mountainside, the boys find the pilot's body. Piggy suggests burying him, but Jack objects, arguing that the man who crashed their plane doesn't deserve a Christian burial. Experienced pilot, a real man wouldn't have made that mistake. The boys decide to lay him to rest according to naval tradition by dropping him into the sea. However, the pilot fails to reach his destination once again, falling into the jungle below the mountain. After scouting the summit, the scouts return and announce a new plan: to light a fire on the mountain to attract the attention of rescuers. During the assembly, one of the Litluns asks what they will do about the beast, a scary, mysterious creature he saw in the woods. The kids are frightened but try not to show it. Jack promises that his hunters will definitely track the beast down and kill it. For the sake of public adoration, he's ready to promise anything. The hunters will make the best fire. Come on, follow me. Then the older boys head off to gather wood for the fire. In the process, Piggy stumbles upon a piglet and starts a chase. He drives it toward Jack, who has a knife. The piglet gets tangled in the branches, but Jack can't bring himself to kill it before it breaks free. Jack blames Piggy for his failure, to which Piggy retorts that the chorister himself is a coward, a liar, and generally not a good person. Why did you do that? What? You let him go. You should have held on. Piggy decides not to escalate the conflict and promises not to tell anyone. That hunter Jack chickened out of killing the prey. You won't tell because it's your fault. Piggy got scared of a pig continuing to gather firewood. Piggy befriends Simon, who liked the song. Then the boys gather at the top of the mountain, piling the wood into a fire pit. Since no one has matches, they decide to use Piggy's glasses to start the fire, concentrating a sunbeam on a piece of kindling. When the first flames lick the wood, the boys cheer. However, joy quickly turns to panic. The fire spreads from the pit to a nearby tree, then to another. Soon, the glow of a wildfire slowly engulfs the island. The kids flee in terror down the mountain toward the safety of the beach. During the escape, Piggy falls, hits his head, and loses consciousness. He comes to after dark. Part of the island is engulfed in flames. Coming down, Piggy sees the older boys rescuing the little ones who fell asleep in the woods. To help wake them up, he takes the conch shell and blows into it despite his asthma. Once the survivors are gathered on the beach, Ralph asks if everyone is present. Piggy remembers the boy with the birthmark who spoke about the beast earlier. He goes to look for him, but finds only the forest being consumed by fire. After a while, Jack and his companion Maurice track a wild sow in the woods. Meanwhile, the boy recalls how they boarded the passenger plane. Everyone except him was seen off by parents or other relatives. Bitterness toward the world over his father's indifference meant Jack showed no fear, even during turbulence. Deep down, he didn't care what happened. When Maurice steps on a branch and scares off the prey, the boys give chase, but fail. Why were you yelling? Sorry. They return to camp, where the eldest, along with Chief Ralph, are trying to build a hut for rain protection. Jack distracts the chief with an offer to go for a swim, after which they plan their next moves on the beach. I'll catch some food. We'll finally have some meat. The conversation is interrupted by Piggy's appearance. He thought it was a meeting of the authorities, but Jack wants nothing to do with him. Later, Jack notices plane wreckage stuck on a cliff near the island. Deciding they might be useful, he climbs the cliff to get them, while two boys, Maurice and Roger, watch him from below. Once at the top, Jack realizes this is no magic beanstalk, and he can't reach the wreckage. Time to go down. Agreed? After consulting with his comrades, the boy tries to climb down, but any climber will tell you that coming down is harder than going up. Jack can't find a foothold. He's saved by Roger, who climbed up after him and tells him where to step. Back down, the boss of the quarry stuffs and part-time hunter's lead tells his comrades not to tell anyone about his failed rock climbing stint. Not a word to anyone. They wouldn't understand. Later, while watching the signal fire at the site of the blaze, Jack notices a wild pig lair below. Tells Maurice to remember the spot so he can lead them there later. At night, Jack secretly smears himself with mud, imitating tribal hunting paint. Simon catches him in the act. His choir colleague admits he understands Jack, as their fathers are very similar. Simon also shows off a knife he fashioned from stone, just like their prehistoric ancestors. In the morning, Piggy holds another meeting, but nobody gives a damn. The little uns aren't listening, and Jack's hunters are busy, docu-passed as whittling stone spearheads following Simon's example. Even Ralph's attempt to bring order to the childish chaos fails to gain traction. I want to be a good leader, but it's not working. I don't know why. After Jack's speech about how the kid is no anti-tick, one of the little uns takes the conch shell, symbolizing the right to speak. He tells of a terrifying beast he allegedly heard in the forest. Over the last few days, rumors about it have been spreading rapidly among the survivors. If there were a beast, I would have found it by now. It doesn't exist. Sure. By day, the hunters led by Jack smear themselves with clay and mud, arm themselves with homemade stone-tipped spears, and go to waste some pigs. Reaching the lair where the animals are resting, the boys surround it from all sides. As they approach, the small piglets flee in terror, leaving their mother trapped She thrashes in the circle of children, who jab her with spears and hit her with sticks. Looking at the battered animal, Jack pulls out a knife and plunges it into its neck. He's sprayed with blood. The children, having killed a living creature, suddenly realize this isn't a game of hunter anymore. They stare in shock at the bleeding pig as the rain begins, realizing what they've done. Only Roger is smiling joyfully. When the initial shock passed along with the rain, the kids cut off the pig's head and mount it on a stick. Tie the carcass itself to 2 poles to carry it back to camp. On the way, they stop by a stream to bathe and wash off the blood. Up ahead, the kids find Simon's suitcase that fell from the plane, containing his diary. Jack forbids reading it, but the hunter's attention shifts to another suitcase. Lying nearby. It's full of women's clothes, which the children happily put on. The triumphant return to camp with the kill is spoiled by the fact that a ship is looming on the horizon. The children try to attract its attention, but in vain. Due to the rain, the signal fire on the mountain went out. Jack runs up, where Ralph is trying to fan the flames, but they are too late. The vessel turns around and goes on its way. Ralph blames Jack for failing to watch the fire, even though he volunteered to be its guardian. The chief calls the hunter a smug loser, good for nothing. Too bad the fire's out, but at least say thanks for the meat. Quarrel worsens when Piggy climbs the mountain and joins the accusations. Jack attacks Piggy, shattering one of the lenses of his glasses. Realizing everyone still thinks it's his fault, he says he's going into the forest to build his own camp with coconuts and hunting. Jack leaves alone. No one wants to keep him company. Heading into the woods, he cries in despair. In the camp, Piggy tells Ralph that if he gives up, Jack will establish totalitarianism and despotism. However, in the morning, other hunters join Jack on the other side of the island. Together they build a hut and bring in the suitcases found in the forest, and in a quiet moment, Jack takes out Simon's diary, opens it, and starts reading. Meanwhile, Simon stumbles upon the pilot's corpse stuck on a slope in the forest, the same one they dropped off the mountain earlier. At night, Simon dreams of memories from the Catholic choir, where they used to sing at home together with Jack and the other guys. During the day, he carries branches to build a shelter, after which he swims in a small lake with Ralph. Piggy tries to make them see reason and continue working, but the chief says that in Jack's camp, everyone is just relaxing, so they, tiny sphincters, can relax a bit too. Why do we have to be adults? I want to eat, sleep, and swim. In the evening, Piggy tells the little ones a bedtime story. When everyone has fallen asleep, Ralph and Simon meet on the shore to talk. The choir boy admits that during school, when everyone would leave for Christmas break, only he and Jack would stay behind at school. During those times, he and Simon had something of a friendship, but when the others returned, Jack would change immediately and act like nothing happened. He's a coward, but you're not, Ralph. That's not certain. And we all need you. Simon warns Ralph that he knows Jack's deceitful nature, and his biggest secret, he's a coward. That's why he respects Ralph and listens to his opinion, while treating everyone else like dirt. The conversation is cut short by the twins, Sam and Eric, who are supposed to be watching the signal fire on the mountain. They abandon their post because a mysterious beast attacked them. In the morning, Ralph's negotiating group heads to Jack's camp to discuss the new intel on the beast. The hunters, who are sliding into a primitive tribal system, decide they need to track the creature down and kill it. Ralph decides that both groups will go on the hunt. First, they head to a lonely cliff, separated from the island by a narrow stone isthmus, thinking the beast is hiding somewhere they haven't searched yet. Remembering Simon's words about Jack's cowardice, Chief challenges him to cross the narrow bridge and scout the other side. Halfway across, the head of the hunters realizes his authority is slipping away and follows after him. On the other side, Jack ignores the helping hand offered by the pioneer. After inspecting the cliff away from prying eyes, the hunter tells Ralph that he isn't as brave as he tries to act. In response, the chief hints that he knows all about Jack's cowardice. Jack realizes Simon was the one who snitched, and during a break, he flashily pulls out Simon's diary for him to see. In search of the beast, the little Robinsons head back to where it was last seen, the mountain peak by the signal fire. As it gets dark, Piggy suggests turning back, but Jack decides to press on just for show. His loyal sycophants, Maurice and Roger, as well as Ralph and Simon, volunteered to go. Approaching the summit, Ralph tries to call Jack's bluff, saying he's decided to postpone the trek until morning, but without him, the hunter would be too scared to go, but the bluff fails. Jack and his helpers keep going, forcing the chief and Simon to join, so they can see what happens personally. Otherwise, the stories told later would be beyond belief. Creeping up to the summit, they see something moving in the dark on the rocks. In reality, it's the remains of the parachuted pilot, whom the wind had tossed onto the mountain, billowing the fabric. But in the dark, the frightened children's minds mistake the corpse for a real monster. All 5 of them flee down in a panic. In the original camp, Jack uses the horn to call a meeting, waking the sleeping children. He says they saw the beast and offers the children the hunter's protection. When Ralph objects that their brave protector was the first to run in panic, Jack goads him. The argument ends in a fight, during which the hunter beats the chief over the head with the conch. Then Jack and his hunters leave for their own camp, inviting anyone who wants to join. They claim they are the ones who can actually kill the beast. Almost all the kids leave with them. At night, Simon smears himself with mud as if he's about to duel a predator. Like a seasoned commando, he crawls into the camp of his former choir mates and sneaks into Jack's hut to steal back his diary. It contains a story from one Christmas that compromises the hunter-in-chief, when Jack got sick and called Simon Mommy while he was caring for him. In the morning, Piggy, Simon, and Ralph stay by the fire in the original camp. Choir boy burns the stolen diary in the flames. Suddenly, a squad of hunters, painted in mud and wearing makeshift masks, bursts from the woods. Shaman, thinking this is revenge for the theft, drops to the sand in a fetal position. But the raiders only want fire. Stealing a burning ember, they carry it back like Prometheus's larva. Jack and his helpers appear next. He says they've killed another pig and invites everyone to a feast at his camp, despite their differences. As evening falls, the remaining trio of the first camp decides what to do. Simon insists they shouldn't go to Jack's, or something bad will happen. But Piggy and Ralph disagree. Something bad will happen? Man, you're crazy. And Ralph is the chief. In the end, the chief leads the remaining tribe to their neighbors. There, the local savages are roasting wild pig skewers, painted in war colors and wearing masks, performing some weird dances of their own. Jack offers the first piece to Ralph as a guest of honor. Simon, seeing the savages his former brothers in Christ have become, and turns and walks into the woods in disappointment. As a storm begins, the feast in Jack's camp turns into a pseudo-religious bacchanalia. The children perform ritual hunting dances in the night, mimicking a mob killing a pig, chanting slogans about killing the beast and acting like religious fanatics. Kill the beast, cut her throat, spill her blood, kill the beast, cut her throat. Watching this, Ralph and some of the other kids realize they aren't quite hungry enough to partake in this madness. In the forest, Simon stumbles upon the pig's head on a stake. Left there after the first successful hunt, it's already rotting, covered in maggots and swarming with flies, as if commanding them. Simon begins to hallucinate. The head speaks to him, revealing a terrible truth. There is no beast on the island. The real beast is hiding inside the humans themselves. With this grim realization, Simon runs back to the camp. The hunters, caught in religious ecstasy, notice movement in the bushes and charge with their spears to kill the beast. They jab and jab until they realize it's not a monster but Simon. Despite this, the hunters continue their mad dance on the shore, until the tide carries their comrade's lifeless, stabbed body out to sea. In the morning, Ralph and Piggy discuss what to do with what they witnessed. The night before, specifically, Simon's murder. Gravely shaken, Ralph drifts into a memory of tracking a deer with his father, not for the hunt, but to practice observation skills. Deer go crazy just looking for someone to mate with. You take the shot. At night, a squad of hunters attacks Ralph and Piggy's hut. The twins come to their aid, but they too are overpowered by the sudden and superior enemy forces. The attackers steal Piggy's glasses and leave. The last intact lens is needed to light the fire that went out during the rain, since everyone was too busy with their Savantui party to watch it. In the morning, the few remaining members of the first camp hold a meeting to decide what to do. Without his glasses, Piggy is blind as a bat. He decides to go to Jack's camp and demand his glasses back. They belong to him. Ralph and the twins accompany him, as the boy can't make the journey unaided due to his poor vision. At Jack's camp, they are met by even more feral hunters. Instead of the chief hunter, the guests are met by his right-hand man, Roger. When Ralph blows the conch to start the meeting, Roger hurls a stone at them, mocking their outdated rules. Soon Jack appears. Ralph demands the glasses back, calling the hunters thieves. This fair point sends Jack into a rage, and he attacks Ralph. A fight breaks out between the chief and the hunter, using makeshift spears to the delight of the spectacle-starved crowd of feral children. Seizing the moment, the unattended Piggy crawls on all fours toward the conch, lying on the rock, wanting his right to speak. As Jack beats the losing Ralph with a stick, the boy picks up the shell and gives a speech about how the kids have gone a bit too far with the savages game. Jack orders Roger to shut Piggy up, and Roger drops a boulder from above onto the speaker's head. Surprised by this turn of events, Jack orders the rest of the tribe to seize the outsiders. The hunters attack the twins while Ralph, fighting back with a stone, drags the injured Piggy away. Two of them head deeper into the forest while the savages are busy with the prisoners. The boy leaves his comrade to rest and goes in search of drinking water, counting his steps. So he knows how to find his way back. In the thicket, he sees the ghost of the recently deceased Simon. The ghost leads him to a small lake. Ralph collects water and coconut shells before being spooked by two hunters. Returning to Piggy, he gives him a drink and notices that he's only getting worse. The blood from the head wound won't stop flowing. Ralph builds a lean-to so they can spend the night in shelter and drags Piggy inside. He apologizes for calling him that name in front of the others. Piggy's real name is Nicky. His name is Piggy. In the morning, Ralph digs a grave to bury his friend. Piggy passed away during the night after patching up his own wounds. From yesterday's scuffle, Ralph secretly returns to Jack's camp. He sees the twins on guard, having been forced to join the hunters. They warn Ralph that Roger has already sharpened a stick to mount his head on, just like the pigs, and advise him to run. Ralph hides in the forest marsh. 5 hunters led by Jack are on his trail. When the savages split up, Ralph, hiding in the water, attacks Jack, but the fight ends in a draw. A heart-to-heart talk leads nowhere either. Jack lets out a war cry to summon the others and continue the hunt. Ralph flees, but the hunters don't back down, sticking to his tail like an annoying burr. After a run along the coast, the boy hides in the brush while the whole tribe searches for him. However, Jack's boys can't find the chief, so Roger proposes an alternative plan. Smoke the prey out. They pile up wood in the forest and use the lens to start a fire, spreading the flames to the piles. Unable to bear the fumes, Ralph rises from his hiding spot and stumbles out. In the man-made fog, he hallucinates Piggy. The ghost of his fallen comrade points out a safe path between the fires. Ralph reaches the beach where, instead of painted-up kids, he sees a boat moored to the shore and a British naval officer. He approaches him, and shortly after, the rest of the children slowly emerge from the brush. When the officer asks what kind of games they've been playing, Ralph admits that there are at least 2 corpses as a result of the event, and that's just what he personally saw. Stunned by the childish fun, the officer expressed his disappointment that British children have devolved from civilization into savagery. He asks who's in charge. Ralph looks back at Jack, but Jack stays cowardly silent, yielding the right to be called chief. Ralph admits that he is the leader, after which the sailor tells the children to get in the boat. The adults are taking them back. The hunters slowly walk to the boat, dropping their homemade spears, all except Jack. The camera pulls away from the island, engulfed in clouds of smoke, and on that note, the series ends.